hello kids. How is everybody doing? I am the Eternal Abyss, and this is another, I guess, episode of The Abyss. Why not? Just decided to go on stream because I don't feel like typing, and an interesting topic of conversation came up, so why not? Let's chit-chat. I think I'm also restreaming on YouTube and what have yous. I think I'll have to double check. Oh goodness. Yes, so it seems I'm on D Live and I'm on YouTube, so because my restreamer is just automatically turned on, so yay. Awesome possum. So we have some fun things happening here. Last boring stream. How you doing? Not sure if he's on the stream, but he started a conversation in chat, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of just talk a little bit about it and go over things and see, you know. I cannot hear myself. I don't know why. There we go. Good, that's a little buzzing a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I might have to invest in a new microphone. This one's starting to misbehave a touch. Just let him know that I'm referring to him in stream, so. But hello everybody, and yeah, I mean, there's a couple things happening, a couple news items that could be talked about. Why not? But the last boring stream brought up an interesting point of conversation. And I'm trying to follow, so I can figure out what exactly he's getting at here. So, you know, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now that makes life not entirely pleasant. There's a lot of negativity in the world, a lot of violence. The world is on fire. We have some very bad juju going on economically, politically. Our country is in disarray. Not just our country, not just the United States, but globally. I mean, you have governments really falling apart right now, and it can be pretty sad, you know. Hey, Orthodox. Hey, friend. Your last church group, it was twice as many dudes as girls. You know, I haven't really been to a church group in a while. What I've been seeing in church lately is actually like demographics are getting older and dying. You're not getting a lot of younger people going to church. The Catholic Church in particular is suffering from a shortage of priests as well. So there's also that. But yeah, I think society, though actually it's kind of strange, because if you actually think about it, statistically speaking, this younger generation has actually, in a way, veered more towards like more tradition and values and things like that, but I don't know if they necessarily veer towards church or organized religion, because there's a lot of bad talk about organized religion. And I find that a lot of that talk that is bad about organized religion, a lot of it's unfounded. And a lot of it is gross overgeneralizations about what it means to be part of an organized religion. So you have a little bit of that problem. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of that, I did put a couple news items I wanted to discuss in my title. So I'll like to get that out of the way very quickly, and then we can dive deeper into like a more philosophical discussion. Yeah, but Protestant churches are theater. They're not real religion. I mean, you have what was it? Was it Anglican, or there was one denomination that was gonna do some test runs, like they were gonna test run blessing gay unions. You know, I mean, come on, that's not a real religion when you are, you know, doing experimentation to see how your congregation feels about certain things. You're not following the will of God in that case. You're following the will of man at that point. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't matter how conservative a Protestant church is. Protestantism, by its very definition, is anti-Christian, really, if you think about it. Oh yeah, they all bow to the COVID and mask shit and all that stuff. Oh yeah. I mean, there are a lot of Catholic churches that also went along with that, though there were a couple parishes that were less they were less nuts about it. There were several parishes that you could go to, and they didn't go, you know, completely bananas on you. So I have to at least respect that there were a couple parishes that weren't nuts. But the news items that I've been seeing all over the place, oh my goodness, is the Marvels. This movie, I think it cost what, $200 million plus, and it only globally made what, 50 million, 60 million, something like that. It's bad. It's very bad. It did not fare well. And there's a lot of factors that play into this. I've been watching a lot of different reviewers talk about a lot of different things, and there seems to be somewhat of a consensus about what's going on with the Marvel Universe. A lot of people are talking about oversaturation. A lot of people are talking about superhero fatigue. There was one video that actually took a slightly different approach that I thought was very fascinating. They were talking about how the changing demographics of the audiences didn't reflect the demographics that Disney was chasing after, Disney/Marvel. And that's an interesting take on it, because not a lot of the videos really talked about that. Because, I mean, let's face it, you've had the MCU exist for quite a while now. It's been going on for a good period of time. Now you have a new generation of viewers coming in, and who knows what the hell, you know, Disney... Well, actually, you know what Disney's doing. There's no doubt in anybody's mind what Disney is doing. It's all about pushing this woke and this leftist thing, this wokeism. They're trying the diversity stuff. They're trying to put all the most ridiculous bullshit in these Marvel movies and TV shows that you can imagine. I mean, I had not watched Loki, for example. I have not watched a lot of this stuff because I just... After you had actors in the Avengers movies straight out just spit in the face of fans for political reasons, because if you happen to be a Trump supporter, they didn't want you to even go watch their movies. I'm like, well, okay, fine, you don't deserve my money. You know, I don't need to give you my money. So why even bother? So I haven't watched a lot of this stuff, and while I was looking at the fallout of the absolutely abysmal, horrid opening of the Marvels and how bad it's doing, I started watching some other stuff, and there was one video that came up about Loki. And apparently, the person involved in Loki is bi, so they made it a point to make Loki say that he was bi. Stupidest shit in the world. We're talking about Nordic mythology. Okay? Characters taken from Nordic mythology. And you want to turn an ancient character from an ancient pantheon of gods and deities and just magically make him bi because you want that to be part of the MCU canon. Odin drank semen for some ritual to find some hidden truth. Is that true? That's part of the lore? I mean, not the Marvel version of Odin. I'm talking about like actual Nordic mythology lore. No shit. Oh boy. Wow, that's 4chan. But I mean, okay, for the record, don't get me wrong. Greek mythology, Nordic mythology, ancient mythologies of Eastern and Western cultures, whatever they may be, there's a lot of weird fucked up shit in those mythologies. I mean, you got some really crazy stuff happening in those things. So absolutely, don't get me wrong. I'm not a purist in the sense that, oh, you know, every god deity of every pantheon is a certain way. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the hubris of this one, I think is a producer or director or whatever. I don't even know who the fuck she is. Or he is. I don't even fucking know who it is. But the hubris of this individual to say, oh, I'm bi, so at the first opportunity, I'm gonna make a beloved character. Because let's admit it, Loki was one of the more beloved characters of the MCU. We're gonna make this beloved character bi. And the thing that really irks me, about it isn't even that. The thing that irks me is that the actor, for example, and I know the actors don't really have that much sway or pull, but in a way they do. I mean, Tom, what's his name? Hiddleston? Well, however his last name is pronounced. He kind of made Loki what it was. That weird gray area between bad and good, evil and good character, villain and anti-hero. He played that character very well. He turned it into, you know, what people really enjoyed. And the Loki series pretty much shat all over that character, and he, I guess because he just wants the money, he doesn't give a shit about it. He didn't do anything to really, I haven't heard any pushback from him saying, I don't think this should be done to this character. Because sometimes actors will have some integrity about the characters they play and say, you know, I really don't think this goes with the character at all. And as much as Mark Hamill, for example, is a complete piece of shit, because he is, Mark Hamill had, at least for a very, very brief moment until Disney basically grabbed him by the balls and yanked, there was a video clip of him saying he didn't understand why the script wanted Luke Skywalker to act behave in a certain way, say certain things. He's like, that's not Luke Skywalker. That's completely opposite of what Luke Skywalker would do. And then he quickly was shut down by Disney. So there you go. That's kind of what I mean. It's like you actually have some actors that are saying, well, this character, they understand the character because they embody it in a certain way. They inject parts of themselves into the character, vice versa. The character, how it's written, how they should be portraying it, that is thrust upon them. It also injects a part of that into them. So it would make sense for an actor to go, well, wait a minute, this really doesn't feel right for the character to be acting in a certain way, or to be behaving a certain way, to be speaking a certain way. Doesn't make sense. And there's actually a very good one of these video clips actually was talking about Spider-Man. Actually, I was watching this video about Spider-Man, and they were talking about this one comic of Spider-Man that also plays into this whole discussion, because they were talking about, there was this one comic where you see Peter Parker behaving in a certain way that is very unlike Peter Parker, which makes you keep reading and going on in the comic, going, well, what exactly is going on here, because that's not how Peter Parker would act. So when you have a character where you set up expectations of how this character is supposed to act, and then you completely flip it around, that does a huge disservice to the character, a huge disservice to those that have built what that character was, and also a big disservice to the fans. I'm gonna have to take a very quick pause here. As everybody knows, I have allergies and my sinuses are going nuts, so I need to clear things up a little bit here. So enjoy some of this background music, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I apologize. That's, the high caliber of the stream. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Sometimes, when you're dealing with these sort of things, they can disrupt the fun, so to speak. So yeah, so at the end of the day, what's going on with the MCU, with this Phase 4, the MCU is really garbage. And the beauty of it is this. The beauty of it is that Disney / Marvel, they won't quit. They won't stop. And it's gonna be to their detriment, which is fine. I don't care. They can lose all the money in the world, and they can lose all the fans in the world. It doesn't matter to me. They already shit so much on Star Wars that they basically destroyed Star Wars. Now they destroyed Marvel, and they've also destroyed their own previous creations. They've destroyed their original library of amazing cartoons, and that sound was me opening a bottle of some cola here, so don't mind that. Because I need my fluids while I'm speaking. So it's terrible, really, what Disney is doing in that sense, where they're pretty much taking a huge dump, as the angry video game nerd would say, to take a huge diarrhea dump on everything that they've created. That all these people that came before them created to build the Disney empire that they built. It's pretty pathetic at the end of the day, and it's pretty sad what the state of affairs of Disney. But hey, they wanna pull out a machine gun and just constantly keep shooting at their feet and shooting at themselves and just killing themselves. Be my guest. I don't care. They're not going to go out of business anytime soon. Though it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But it is fun to me to see this the spiraling down the toilet. I mean, eventually they're gonna have to make some hard decisions and turn things around, unless they want to like completely go out of business, which isn't gonna happen anytime soon, but it will eventually. I mean, you can't keep spending hundreds of millions of dollars and not getting money back. You can't operate consistently in the red. Well, I don't worship either Marvel or DC. DC has gone to shit very badly. They went to shit way before Marvel did, actually. DC Comics was the first, actually, to really go to shit with Superman, where in the comics, they completely dropped during the George W. Bush years, where they were saying, the tagline with Superman used to be truth, justice, and the American way. They made Superman stop saying shit like that. They made Superman be anti-American, which is insanity, because he represented everything that America was supposed to be about in the comics. And because they hated Bush and the Iraq War and other bullshit like that, they decided to change Superman in that fashion. That was the first, like, huge red flag about what happened in comics, and they started getting super political, and it started with that. Captain UN. Is there a Captain UN? I have no idea. No, but I mean, DC has a lot of faults too, but I have to say that the one thing that I do appreciate about DC is that certain core elements of characters don't necessarily change much. Though they keep, this is the thing with DC, they keep doing this Etch-a-Sketch thing with their DC universe, essentially, in the comics, where they have this universe destroying cataclysms, and then they just Etch-a-Sketch and everything starts over. But I think most comics do similar things like that too, because when you create such convoluted narratives, eventually things need to be reset. But the New 52 doesn't seem to be doing very well, and comics in general don't seem to be doing very well. Like, comic sales, I think, overall have not really been great. And the DC universe, the DC movies, ooh, boy, those are stinkers. These DC movies have been very bad. There's only been one or two that stand out as decent. But generally speaking, the DC movies have really the modern. When I talk about the DC movies, I talk about the DC universe, starting with Man of Steel, moving forward. That's not to say they haven't had some pretty bad stinkers. As long as they don't have Marvel mystery cults, yes. Yet Marvel mystery cults, what are those? I'm not sure if I follow. Not that I'm aware of. I don't think they do, though I'm not entirely sure what they are. Like the ancient Roman mystery cults? Oh, I don't know. I mean, some people follow this shit like it's a cult, so I don't know. Part of their religion, but nobody knows what they did, but they were very important. Yeah, I don't know. The whole DC and Marvel world is so messed up now with things that they did with characters, because they had to reinvent characters. They have to replace characters. They, like, in DC Universe, they had to make, what was it, Batwoman? They made her a lesbian. For no reason, just because, they wanted to have this whole diversity thing, where they wanted to turn one of the Bat family members, so to speak, lesbian. That's it. No other reason. No other motivation. It's just this whole woke diversity and inclusion bullshit. Simple. Same thing with Miles Morales and Spider-Man with Marvel, where now even in the games they're pretty much relegating Spider-Man to a secondary character, Peter Parker Spider-Man, and they're making Miles Morales. They're trying to make Miles Morales the primary Spider-Man of in the universe now, Marvel universe. You're onto something there, friend. Friend is saying here, for those that may not be able to read chat in the video, it's become increasingly obvious that these movies, shows aren't made for entertainment, but are made to MK Ultra, the population, on accepting certain ideas, attempting to normalize the abnormal, i.e., a strong, empowered woman, misgeneration troons, etc. Yeah. I think it's scary to know there are some serious occultists in comics, like Alan Moore, that bald guy. Are there orthodox? I wasn't quite aware of that, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in comics that, especially the comics that involve magic, where in both DC and Marvel, they do a lot of shit with, you know, demonology, and they do a lot of stuff with occultism, magic, things like that, black magic. There's a lot of that stuff in there, occultism, and you know, it's one of those things where it's like it's easy to cross lines if you're not careful with that shit. Brent is also saying that companies like Disney, all these media conglomerates, can run at a loss because BlackRock would just buy up the company shares again and prop up the price of the stock so that they don't show a loss. Yeah, in fact, that's what's been going on with these companies, is that a lot of them, like Twitter, had been operating at a loss for a very, very long time. Twitter, by all rights, should not have lasted as long as it has until Elon Musk bought it. It didn't make any logical sense, but because they were being propped up by whatever, be it companies like BlackRock or by the government, that's what happens. You have these companies that are basically just the extensions of political elites that they can just operate and do whatever they want as long as they follow what these governments and companies want them to do. They won't fail, you know. And it's sad that they are just, you know, such cucks essentially for the government and for other conglomerates like BlackRock, for example. It's kind of sad, really. But yeah, I mean, the whole situation with like the DC, if anybody has any sort of fandom towards DC or Marvel, I weep for them in a way. It's very sad. I used to have some fandom. I used to appreciate Spider-Man. I used to appreciate the Hulk, for example. I thought one of my favorite characters was the Hulk. I liked the Hulk a lot, and what they did to Hulk, or what Mark Ruffalo did to that character in the movies, is just it's a tragedy. Really, it's just so sad how they basically assassinated that character. They just ruined the Hulk. They've ruined other characters. They keep doing this shit on the altar. They keep sacrificing characters on the altar of political activism. That's really what it is. And the thing that really is frustrating is that this sort of thing is insidious. It's getting into everything. You've seen it in cartoons for many years, and people have ignored it, where they put this shit in cartoons to normalize degeneracy. They put this shit in movies, in books, in commercials, in advertising. It's all over the place in the internet. I mean, you can't. It's a cancer that you just can't escape. Which makes it even harder for someone to stay firm in their convictions, saying, no, this is wrong. And I've tried to stay firm in my convictions when it comes to this sort of thing. I've had many an argument with friends and classmates and colleagues about what they've done to certain characters. Like, I've had, especially Spider-Man, for example, I had a lot of discussions about Spider-Man, and we're not even talking about this woke stuff. For example, like when the Sam Raimi, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies came out with Tobey Maguire, the first one, actually, the first Spider-Man movie. There was a big hubbub about the fact that Spider-Man would have biological web shooters instead of the mechanical ones. And now, we're not even talking about anything woke. We're not talking about anything political. We're not talking about anything of that kind of nature. That alone, though, he may be spared. I don't know. He's had some pretty big stinkers, too. He's had some pretty big stinker movies. I don't know. But anyways, the point that I was trying to make is that I would have long discussions about, okay, well, yeah, Evil Dead is cool. I do like Evil Dead. I will grant a pass on that one. That was a good one. So I would have long discussions with my buddies about the biological web shooters, where it got to a point where my buddies would bring it up just to irk me, you know. But I raised a point about this because they kept telling me they didn't understand why it was such a problem for me, and I kept trying to explain it to them, and I would tell them, listen, one aspect of this character are the web shooters, and it's not the fact that he's Spider-Man and he shoots webs. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the logistics behind it, because it reflects the character. You take away the fact that Peter Parker came up with the biological web shooters, and you just excised a giant portion of that character, of who he is, how smart he is, how creative he is, how he resolves problems. And then also you introduce interesting mechanics of storytelling, where in a moment, oh, I'm out of web fluid. It increases the challenge of, you know, being a superhero, where you're trying to do something and you have to think of, oh, well, I gotta put extra cartridges with me. I have to replace them. I have to modify them for certain enemies. You know, they basically excised a giant portion of the character by doing that. How are you gonna have the modified web shooter fluid for certain characters when it's just coming out of your body? Are you just gonna will it? No, it doesn't work that way. So it's a huge problem, in my opinion. And I love those movies too, to be honest with you. I think those were a great interpretation of the character. A lot of people shat on Tobey Maguire because they didn't like him as Spider-Man or Peter Parker. I think actually he fit very well. He was nerdy, he was awkward, he was goofy, and that's, you know, kind of how Peter Parker was supposed to be in the comics originally. He wasn't some popular jock kid. He was a nerdy guy who was bullied, and he got these powers. And it was part of the storytelling and the character and the character building. The third one was kind of bad, though. Let's just be frank. But you know, if you watch all three of them together, like do a marathon, and you watch all three, the third one isn't really horrifyingly bad. It's not a great movie. They're trying to do too much with it, and the third one was a little long. And then that guy Topher, who played Venom, and he was Eddie Brock in the movie. In the movie, he was a weird addition, in my opinion. Not so much because I didn't think he was a bad Eddie Brock, though. Physically, it didn't make much sense to me because Venom was always supposed to be like bigger than Peter Parker, and Eddie Brock was a bigger person than Peter Parker. So when they cast that Topher guy from that '70s show as Eddie Brock to be Venom, I was like, there was some cognitive dissonance there for me. It didn't quite make sense. And then, as a character, though, yeah, he was an annoying character. He was one of those guys that was trying to, you know, make himself look good and make Peter Parker look bad, etc. So he didn't do a bad job with that. But some lines and some things that they did when he was Venom, and the Venom costume when it showed his face, it was weird. It didn't quite jive very well. They should have followed, I think, the comic a little more closely when it came to that for that effect. So there were problems with the third one. But overall, I mean, all three movies were relatively entertaining, I think. The first one I enjoyed a lot. The second one I also enjoyed. And the third one was the only one that I do feel was a little long, and I do think that there's some good things about it. Oh, I don't know what came in. I saw bits and pieces of that on Doom's stream. I have no idea what the title is. But you know, that's kind of what happens with these movies. You there's gonna be some good, there's gonna be some bad. You got to take everything together. But I kind of veered off into a tangent there. I was just getting back to the whole point is like, I'm trying to, you know, retrace what I was talking about before we went off on the trilogy there. Oh yeah, the point that I was making was about making changes to characters that are unnecessary. And that's where the issue is for me. It's not even so much this whole woke and diversity shit. Like, that just, the reasoning behind it makes it worse, in my opinion, that you're changing it for the sake of woke and diversity. But it's like, if you're going to shit on every character that you make, then why should I be invested in that? Like, going back to Miles Morales' Spider-Man. So, okay. I saw another video that I saw talked about this, for example. They were talking about how Miles Morales as a character by himself is an interesting character. It's an interesting Spider-Man. He has different sets of powers compared to Peter Parker Spider-Man, etc., etc. So it's interesting about that. I don't know where Miles Morales gets his web fluid from. Actually, I don't even remember if that was ever explained in any of the comics and whatever. But I guess he's supposed to be a science whiz as well, so I guess you figure that he would figure out how to do that stuff. Fine, whatever, okay. But in the PlayStation game now, Spider-Man 2, where they're pretty much relegating Peter Parker Spider-Man as a secondary character, and they're basically making Miles Morales Spider-Man the main Spider-Man, and then the next one that they're gonna do, I guess their whole point is they're gonna make him the primary character. My question is this, and this was something that was brought up in the video, is like, well, then why are you making Miles Morales Spider-Man fight, say, Venom, or fight, say, Kraven the Hunter in this game? If Miles Morales was a character on his own 2 feet, a legitimate Spider-Man, for example, that could stand on his own 2 feet, why are you rehashing the enemies in a way? Like, you're using Spider-Man's pantheon of villains, where Miles Morales has 0 connection to these. There's no reason for him to really care as much or be involved as much, because there's no history there. For example, why would he bother to want to fight so hard? Okay, well, yeah, he's a hero, he has to beat the bad guys. Okay, fine, whatever, but why not give him his own pantheon of villains then? Or why not just create a superhero that's half black and half Puerto Rican, that can stand on his own 2 feet and have his own pantheon of villains and have his own everything, instead of basically ripping off Spider-Man and then using Spider-Man's already like world that's been built, and then you just kick out the old hero and drop in the new one, saying, well, this is the new Spider-Man now, you gotta go and, you know, follow this guy, have his back, be a fan of this guy, because he's the Spider-Man now, so now he's the guy that you gotta be a fan of. It doesn't work that way. That's why comic sales and that's why these movies are all failing, because you're not building characters that people like. You're not doing what comics did back in the day. Comics back in the day would spit out heroes and villains left and right, and those that resonated stuck. Those that resonated stuck and kept going and going, and those that didn't eventually just fell off the wayside. So there's a lesson to be learned there, is that when you find a combination of characters that work, and obviously you don't have to do the same character over and over and over again. Just look at all the different superhero comics that there are. Look at the X-Men, look at the DC comics, look at Marvel, look at all these heroes of all different powers and all these different characteristics and all these different backgrounds and all these different stories that relate to them and all these different villains. I mean, obviously, you could have a lot of, quote, diversity built into that already. And you don't have to, you don't have to replace a beloved character with a woke version just because you want to. Because you feel it's a necessary thing. It's not, and it's going to fail, because you can take a black girl to be the new Iron Man, and you know what? You can call her that. You can say that she's that. She's not Iron Man. She's not Tony Stark. You can put the script in front of an actor who's playing Loki and say, all right, say your bye, and he says it, and then now you're like, oh, this is part of canon now, woo woo, It doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it part of actual canon. That's not the Loki in the television series. Loki is not the Loki that people fell in love with. For example, that people love that character. So, it's a hollow. Call it a victory if you want. If that Loki's by, it's a hollow victory. It's not a real victory, because you just alienated a bunch of people that put you in the position to create that show to begin with. That's really what it boils down to. In a way it is, yeah. It is a form of iconoclasm. I agree with that. But moving on from entertainment news to political news, I mean, there's a lot of shit that's happening politically. I really hope that Russia starts making their own Marvel comic movies. Well, you know, it would be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see Russia's take on certain things like that. Well, Russia used to push out a lot of these animations that would rival like Disney actually. Like some of these animations that they did are beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. You know? Russia did this version of The Little Mermaid that is it's older obviously, but it's quite beautiful actually. It's very beautiful, and it's short, but it's not like a full feature-length movie or anything like that. Excuse me, I was trying to contain a yawn. It's a little late here for me. But it's a beautiful animation. The style is very intriguing, and yeah, it's interesting. And I think Russia should go back to doing some animations. I mean, maybe they have, and I just haven't been watching any. I have no idea. But there was a period of time like when they were doing stuff back in the day where they were doing a lot of those kind of things, and they were very interesting to look at. Gorgeous animations, just beautiful animations. I remember watching a lot of those when I was a kid. Gotta drink some more of my fluids here, some more cola. So it would be interesting to see something like that if they would kind of go back to doing stuff like that. But I don't know. But speaking of Russia, you know, going into political news, as I mentioned. Yeah, I guess some of them were they were the Soviet Union at the time, weren't they? So, yeah, they were Soviet cartoons, and I think like the Ice Queen was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. There are like stories from Hans Christian Andersen and things like that they made animations of, and the quality of them, just like the animation quality by itself, the visuals and everything were quite visually a spectacle to see. Really, they were quite beautiful. Maybe if I can find some, I can throw them onto Friendbot or something like that to watch one of these days. Because I think one of them's on YouTube. Actually, there's a couple of stuff like that on YouTube. So it wouldn't be hard to add to Fretbot or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could throw one up on the. You know what? Hold on. I wonder if I gotta try something here, kids. Which probably get me copyright stricken, but. Let me see something here, because there was one where let's see. Let me go to YouTube for a second. I'm gonna see if I can bring up at least a still so I can show you what I'm talking about. Let's see, Soviet cartoons. Little Mermaid, for example, just so I can bring up the yeah, this one is from 1968, right? Let me bring this up here, and I'll just show you like a still of what I'm talking about. So let's see here. Separate that window out for you guys so you can see it better. Let's see if I don't break my stream now. It should be fine. All right. Just need to do a little adjusting here. I'm gonna try and zoom in a little bit here with the cropping so you guys can see. But there we go. I don't know why that immediately kicked it to live. It really shouldn't. I'm in studio mode, but anyways, but see what I mean about the quality and the style of the animation. It's very interesting, very fascinating to look at. And this whole thing isn't even that long. Like I was saying, the video itself is what? It's 27 minutes. The whole animation is only about, it's not even a full half hour. And visually, the whole thing is quite beautiful to watch. And there's some other ones that are really, really nice to see. I think the Ice Queen one is also a Soviet. Let's see. Yes, that one is from 1957. The Snow Queen. And that one is also very like visually compelling to watch. Let's see if I can find like a good shot here of the there we go. Like, take a look at that. I mean, just the you know, the style of it. Very interesting. Very interesting to me. I always found those kind of things quite fascinating, you know. So. No black Ariel, not in 1967 or 1968. No black Ariel. So yeah, one of these days we're gonna have to do like a marathon of all these Soviet cartoons. I mean, they're probably not all gonna be gems. There's probably gonna be a couple duds in there for sure, but yeah, I know that's racist. Yeah. But one of these days we probably should throw some stuff in there and either FriendBot or maybe I could just put together a playlist and we can watch them or something like that. Maybe we'll do like a little Soviet animation marathon on Realms one day. Who knows? I won't be able to restream it onto YouTube because most likely I'm gonna get copyright stricken or well no, actually, would that be public domain now? They're probably public domain, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Huh. I'd have to look into that. I have a feeling that they're public domain. I may be able to just play them on my stream and not have to worry about it. Who knows? Well, I mean, the Snow Queen one that I just showed you, that second screenshot, that's from 1950 something, for example. Let's see. That's 1957. The other one, the Little Mermaid one, is 1968. But because they're Soviet animations, that the Soviet Union collapsed, I wonder what that means for copyright and trademark, because these studios and whatever, they obviously don't exist anymore. I don't know who holds the license for these things now, if anybody holds the license for these things. That's very interesting, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you know? Huh. I hadn't thought about that, like, at all. And the beauty of the Little Mermaid, made by Russia, by the Soviet Union. This is the beautiful thing about these stories. They don't fuck around with, like, nerfing the stories, or, you know, Disneyfying them in the sense of trying to change the outcome of the stories, or like make a sad ending into a happy. No. The Little Mermaid fucking dies in this one, because that's what happens in the original story by Hans Christian Andersen. So it's like, that's the story. And if you're a little kid watching this animation, Russia's like, the Soviet Union back then was like, fuck you, you're getting the story the way it's supposed to be. we're not sugarcoating this shit for you. You know? We're not playing around here. It's that's the one thing that I remember watching that as a kid. Actually, I remember watching some of these animations as a child, and I was flabbergasted by the fact that they didn't do what Disney did, because Disney made this whole happy ending. They completely changed the story around, for example. Oh no, not Russia. They're like, the story, Hans Christian Andersen's story ends with her dying and turning into, spoiler alert, turning into that's where sea foam comes from. Is that Ariel turns into sea foam. And that's what the animation showed, and I was like, as a kid, I was like, holy crap. I was like, but the thing is this, it's like, that's what I love about foreign animation. Not just like the Soviet Union animations, but even old Japanese anime. Voltron, the original Voltron, right? The original team member that was dressed in black, who wasn't the one in the black line, he was in the red line, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't the red line. It was the blue line, because then the princess takes his place. No, the guy with the black helmet and highlights on his uniform, he was in the blue line. He dies in Voltron. And I remember watching that as a child as well and going, holy crap, someone died in a cartoon. I had never seen it. It blew my mind. I wasn't traumatized by it. It didn't scar me for life or anything like that. But it was something that I always found interesting about non-American animation, where here they nerf things a lot for kids. In other countries, they're like, no, fuck it, there's death in animations, there's real life kind of shit in animations, and they don't treat animations like something that is merely just for children. And that's something I kind of have to respect, because there's things in animations, there's stories you can tell in animations before CGI, obviously. But even with CGI, there are certain things you can tell in animation that you just can't tell in any other form. And I don't think that's a negative thing. I really don't. But wrapping that up, I want to talk a little bit about some financial issues that the Pentagon is running into. Apparently there was an audit and they lost track of $3.8 trillion. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Oh my god. And then there's no again, yeah, I know, right? They keep losing money and they keep losing track of money, and who gives a shit apparently. But if I do a transaction of $600 or more on Venmo, the IRS wants to definitely look into that. You know. That happened the night before 9/11. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Relatively recently, actually. Yeah, our country is so fucked. And then, you know, nobody gives a shit. The DOJ isn't going to do anything about it. The DOJ isn't going to do anything about the classified documents that were found in Joe Biden's garage. The Pentagon office that was hit by, that had all those records, was hit by 9/11. Yeah, what a quinky-dink, right? Yeah. I'm sure it was just pure happenstance. It just happened. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But we live in a joke like society right now. Like our justice system is an absolute circus. Our politics are a clown show. You have we're a banana republic basically, where the current regime is just going after their political enemies. And Trump vowed to do the same thing if he gets back into office, because why not? I mean, they did it to him. Why should he take some sort of high ground? It's kind of like the whole nuclear option with Harry Reid when he was still in office, where it was legitimate for them to use the nuclear option to ram down Obamacare down the throat of people. But then when the Republicans took over Congress and they wanted to use it, I was like, oh my god, this is unethical, this is wrong, this is bad. I'm like, wait. Like, what the fuck? Like, how can that be bad when someone else does what you're doing? But when you do it, it's not bad. And that's the problem. There's two sets of rules. There's two sets of justice. There's two sets of laws, and there's two sets of everything in our society, where it's the elites versus us people. They can commit gun crimes. They can snort coke in the White House. They can do all that shit. But you can't. You know? And they're just blatant about it. They are just blatant about it. That is what frustrates me the most. You had President Xi coming from China, and Gavin Newsom, what does this asshole of epic proportions do? He decides to clean up the city, removes all the homeless people, cleans up all the human feces and all the needles, everything. The city becomes spotless because the dictator from China is coming over. And everybody's like, what the fuck, dude? You could do this at any time and you didn't choose to do it, but now because this asshole is coming from China to come visit, now all of a sudden you decide to clean everything up. And he says, yeah! He's like, fuck yeah, of course I'm gonna clean shit up. You have a guest coming to your house, don't you clean up your house? I'm like, you're a fucking asshole. That has nothing to do with it. You have a guest coming, you clean up your house. It's the fact that when there was no guests, everybody in your family kept telling you, please clean up, please clean up. This is unlivable. This is terrible. We got shit all over the place. We got needles all over the place. We got people being murdered and raped and everything. We got skyrocketing crime. Our taxes are super high. We can't live properly anymore. We can't live in this sort of environment. And you kept saying, oh, there's nothing I could do. 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 And then you get a knock on the door saying, oh, hey, President Xi's going to be swinging by next week. Oh, all of a sudden you clean all your shit up. What? That's the bullshit. That they literally give no shits. They know that their behaviors are abhorrent. They know that they have vacuous morals and values. They know that they are morally bankrupt. They don't care. They just don't. The point of the left, and not just the left, this is elite, the elites in power. I mean, I refer to them mostly as the left because that's the ideology they follow. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. A bunch of Republicans voted with Democrats against impeaching Mayorkas recently, for example. That's a bunch of bullshit. So I'm collectively refer to everybody that are elites as the left because that's essentially who they are. So the left, they have no qualms about anything at this point. They don't care how blatant they are about what they're trying to do. They will straight out pretty much say and act as if there are no consequences because there aren't any consequences, and they don't care. The thing they do care about, though, is results. They want their agenda. They want the items in their agenda to happen. They will, little by little, claw and chip away to reach their goals. And the problem is we don't have any gumption in office and any power, situation, and any positions of power where they could put up a real fight and really defeat this nonsense. Which then kind of goes back to what the last boring stream was talking about. See what I did there? It kind of goes back to what he was talking about when it comes to, he was saying he wants a family, he wants kids. Everything looks like a hellscape to him. There's a lot to be disappointed about. There's a lot to be, angry about and frustrated about, and I wholeheartedly agree. There's a lot of problems. But if you don't go out there and look for someone who shares your values, start a family and then have kids with them and raise those kids, etc., that's not going to magically appear in front of you. Nobody's going to magically knock on your door one day and say, hey, look, I'm your ideal wife that you always wanted, and I'm gonna birth as many children as you want. Nobody's just gonna come out of nowhere one morning to do that. You have to go out there, put yourself out there, and try to find someone that you could build that sort of life together, that if that's what you want. And it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. I get that. But nobody's going to do that for you. And nobody's going to come knocking on your door. You have to go out there and do that. See, I have a theory. I've had many conversations with people about their life situations. And I have this theory of what I call the comfortable rut. It's very easy for someone to be in a bad situation, and they know it's a bad situation. It can be, and it can be a bad situation for any reason, any number of reasons. It could be because um they just aren't happy, they just not feeling fulfilled, they're in a job that they don't particularly like, they have they surround themselves with people that probably aren't the best people to surround themselves with, etc., etc. It could be any number of situations, but they don't act on changing the situation. They'll complain, they'll bitch and moan about it. They'll say, "Oh, woe is me. I'm in a very bad situation. I have financial hardships. I have, relationship hardships. I have problems with my parents. I have problems with my cousins. Whatever it may be, whatever the issue is. I have a problem at school. Whatever." And instead of saying at the end of that litany of complaints, instead of going and sitting down for a moment and saying, "You know what? These are all the problems in my life. How about I try and tackle a few of these? How about I try and better my situation? How about I try and do something with my life that's maybe making one change or two, and see where we can make some improvements." It's more comfortable, it's easier, not more comfortable, but it's easier to stay in that rut and just keep complaining over and over and over, because trying to change the situation requires a good deal of effort. And there may be different reasons why they don't want to put in that effort. They may just not feel like it's worth their time. They may feel emotionally vacant. They may not have the emotional gumption to do this. They may be too downtrodden or depressed. It could be also that the odds seem wholly stacked against them, so they're unsure, if they'll even succeed. Like, why try something if the outcome is almost foretold? So I get it. I understand that. I understand that it's hard to pick yourself up by your laurels and hack away at trying to better your life situation, but at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do? Just stay in a miserable state for the rest of your life, and then when you're close to your deathbed, when you're on your deathbed and you're close to death, what are you gonna do? Look back on the rest of all those years and go, "Oh geez, I am full of regrets. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have, talked to that person. I should have taken a different direction in my career. I should have gotten another, a different degree at school. I should have done all these things." But I didn't. All I did was bitch and moan and complain. And for the record, there is a place for bitching, moaning, and complaining. Actually, it's not unhealthy to do so. That could actually, there's definitely something good about just griping about something, getting it off your chest. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, if you have a defeatist attitude about it, though, and I'm not even talking about having a positive attitude or anything like that, because I'm not an optimist, nor am I a pessimist. Even though some people may say that I'm a pessimist, I very much am not a pessimist. I'm just realistic, So that's the only thing. So at the end of the day, my suggestion to those that are very frustrated, and I'm one of those people who's very frustrated with the state of things right now. I am incredibly frustrated with the state of things, which is why I don't stream regularly anymore. Because if I streamed regularly, like if I streamed every day like I used to, like every morning, I had that morning stream where I would just kind of go over the kind of news items. I started doing that, you know, I realized after the election that all my streams were just me ranting and raving. And I was like, well, you know, there may be some entertainment value in that, but that's not a healthy thing. I can't wake up every morning and the first thing I do is just rage over the state of the world and just be unhinged and turn into what Ben Shapiro, for example, has turned into now because of what's going on in Israel. And now he's just turning into like I saw a tweet, an exchange between Candace Owen and him, and it's wow. It's kind of surprising to see. I mean, it's not really that surprising because I figured if there was any situation in the Middle East that involved Israel, I already knew that's the direction Ben Shapiro was going to go. But I just find it very fascinating that it just was such a quick turnaround. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's hard to navigate. It's hard to navigate life right now. I mean, life has never been really particularly easy as a general thing, but things are really. Yeah, he confessed so much after Candace Owen made that tweet. Yeah, she just made a reference to a piece of scripture in the Gospels about, you know, blessed are those who are the peacemakers, etc., etc. And he just went off on her, basically telling her, well, if you don't like if you don't like it, quit the Daily Wire or whatever his little news outlet is called. And then she went off on him, saying, you know, that he's completely unhinged and emotional and all that kind of stuff. So it was an interesting exchange, I gotta say. I do, generally speaking, I don't like these public feuds. I think a lot of it is just played up, frankly, because there's really kind of is a little bit of a stripper name. I never thought about that last boring stream. Yeah, Candace might be a little bit of a stripper name. Hey, facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah. No offense to anyone with a slutty cunt of a sister named Candace. There's a lot of names that are very much names that you would find probably in a strip club. Was she Orthodox? Candace Owens was picked up from one of the same talent agencies a lot of these famous politician types are from. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you had that's kind of where AOC and those people come from. You have these organizations that are basically polishing up and putting these people together to throw them into that foray of politics and whatever. So yeah, these public spats on social media to me are totally played up, and I feel a lot of it's I feel that a lot of it is manufacture, because if I was in a situation like that, if I was in a situation where someone tweets something that I don't appreciate, for example, or I don't appreciate what someone said, and I just make my own statement on it, for example, I wouldn't necessarily go the public route. And I actually had a similar situation like this back in the day when I was actually active on Facebook. I had I won't get into the details of it, but let's just say that several people were making certain political statements on Facebook, which came through my feed. So I just made a general statement. It had nothing to do with any particular individual because they were all pretty much parroting the same bullshit anyways. So I just made a political retort, and it was not targeted at anyone in particular, and I just replied saying, I've been seeing a lot of people, or hearing a lot of people, putting forth argument A, and I believe argument A is absolutely bunk for this reason. And I put down, just my stance on it, and I let it go. Next thing I know, I get a message from someone, and at least they did it privately. They sent me a private message saying, were you referring to me? Were you attacking me with that post? And I'm like, did I name you? Did I tag you? Was I specifically, focusing on what you said? No. So why would you feel that I'm attacking you, per se? So I always found that weird, but at least I can appreciate the fact that they didn't put it up publicly. Now, I've had other people in my circles that have actually decided to do more of a public back and forth about certain things, and I kind of refuse to engage that sort of thing. I usually don't really do that, because to me, again, it's stupid. Why would I need to put on those kind of theatrics? If I have a problem with someone or they have a problem with me, I would much rather have a sit down with them face to face, privately, and just talk it out and go, okay, what's the issue? What's the problem? Let's hash it out. Let's see if there's a resolution, and if there is no resolution, then so be it. Then you sever the relationship, whatever that may be it professional, be it a friendship or personal thing, whatever, it doesn't matter. If there's a reason to sever a relationship with a person, then or a company or whatever, you sever it. There you go. Move on with your lives. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I really hate. These social media people airing their dirty laundry and just shitting on each other publicly, and I don't know. I don't like it. It's very juvenile, in my opinion. That's the word I was trying to get at. It's juvenile. It's childish. It's like high school children trying to humiliate each other or whatever and make fun of each other. It's just dumb. It's very dumb. And you would think people like Candace Owen and Ben Shapiro, being that they're parents, they're raising kids, grow the fuck up. Be an example to your children. Don't just shit post on people that you just don't like or disagree with. There's a time and place for shit posting, but if there's a personal beef, like you work with someone, or they're your colleague or a relative or a friend or something like that, doing this airing of dirty laundry publicly, to me, is very not classy. It's juvenile, and it's devoid of any sort of class and maturity. So, said that. It is getting a touch late for me. I'm getting a wee bit tired. I may call it a night, I think, and who knows when my next stream is going to happen, so you might as well subscribe if you like it, and hit the notification bell so you know when I get online, because I don't have a set schedule, so that's the only way you're going to know. So I suggest to those that like hearing my ramblings and going-ons, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you can follow me on Rumble, I would very much appreciate it, because I would much rather be streaming on Rumble than YouTube, and I need 5 followers in order to stream, and I don't know how many followers I have now. I opened an account a while ago, never really pursued it, so we'll see what happens. So you can find me there, just search for The Eternal Abyss on Rumble, and hopefully we'll be able to make this happen sooner rather than later. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Orthodox. And I appreciate everybody. Yeah. I appreciate everybody that watched and listened to me tonight. And as always, as I usually sign off, I want to let everybody know, don't be complacent. And I even fucked that one up. See, high production value. Awesome to the max. I fucked up my send off. Let me try that one more time. Hold on. All right, we're gonna try this one more time. Okay. So before I take off, as I usually say to you guys, when does that make you not want to blow your brains out? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's the main question about anything one would do. Well, I guess if you enjoy whatever you're doing, you shouldn't want to blow your brains out. Oh, I didn't realize he was on his own stream. My bad. I thought he was still listening. That's why it didn't make any sense at all. See, I'm tired. That's the problem. When I'm tired, these little details start falling through the cracks. So, third time's a charm. I'm gonna let you guys go, and remember, kids, don't be complacent. Have a good night. We'll see you when I see you.